right. Tonight we are going through the Bowers house. Let's go.
Oh, I like the flower graphics. Like it definitely feels like a vibe. Like I can feel it.
For sure. And they're down in listeners, but I definitely want like, either Bleace or I can get it started, just kind of explaining, what the Bowers house is. If you want to get it started, I can continue on. But I definitely want, kind of like a rundown or an overview of what the Bowers house is. This is a place that exists in real life. It's a house. It's over 100 years old. It's really cool. We visited in May, and I really loved it there. It was oh wait, hold on. Yeah, it was a really just I don't even know how to describe it. Like, when you just get away from like everything and you're able to create, that's basically what we did for like a week straight. It's basically like a retreat. It's used as an artist retreat. It's been used as a writer's retreat for many years. It used to be a hotel. It's right next to a train station. Like it's a really historic landmark, and it's in Cannon, Georgia. The town around it, like there's a little like town right in front of it, has existed also for more than 100 years. It was just never fully established. So it is like really quiet, and we took a lot of pictures there of just like the interesting buildings and like the story behind it, and we filmed a short film there, which is actually premiering tomorrow. It's called NGMI Alive, and it's based on the Web3 culture, but I don't want to take too much up of that. We'll definitely be speaking more of that later. I definitely just want to, talk about the Bowers house and talk about Paige's work, because right when you walk in, you see these incredible paintings. We got to see a couple of them in person, like we were saying at the event that they had there. But yeah, just seeing them, just blown up like huge here and just look so cool. I just like I'm obsessed, and it's just crazy to me, like how like anyone can just like do this. Like it always amazes me in like the best way possible. Like so yeah, Paige, I would definitely love for you to, talk a little bit about your art now that we're, getting to look at it and really get the full visual of it. If you're
Yeah,
still there with
I'm
us.
here. I'm here. I was experiencing glitchiness for a little minute, but yeah. So I work in traditional media, and I like I like narratives, and I like sort of ambiguous images and figures and creatures and fantasy lands and so forth. And I write little like kind of world building little paragraphs to go with everything. Anymore because people have asked me for artist statements, and so I instead wrote them little bits of poetry or whatever. But um, yeah. I don't what any questions are good. Questions are great.
Is this watercolor, acrylic? Like what kind of like I guess paints or stuff are you using when you're creating
A,
these kinds of artworks?
a lot of it is watercolor. Because paper is really easy to work with, and watercolor is easy to clean up after. Some of them are acrylic. Some of them have kind of a mixed media kind of thing going on. I use a lot of white ink for my highlights. So I have a little pot of white ink that I'll use highlights because sometimes you want the light to hit the figure and not the light to show through the figure, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what I'm used to, but usually my oil paintings and my watercolors look very similar. So even when I'm using oil paints, I tend to use layers, and or acrylic paints, I tend to use layers and try to make everything look sort of ethereal and dreamy, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I was about to say like I can tell like the watercolor, the layering of it because there's just so much like to like these pieces. Like it feels like so deep, but like also very light, and that's what kind of watercolor does. And I've always been like amazed by watercolor and like just artists that work with like that, type of style. Like it's definitely so beautiful. Like when like you're doing it like honestly correctly, and this is honestly like nothing I've ever seen before, like ever. So I'm definitely like observing, like going from piece to piece, like assessing. I love it.
Thank you so much. Most people when they think of watercolor, they very much think of very very like landscapes and and flowers and things like that. And I like for my things to look pretty. Like I like beauty a lot, as for just aesthetic reasons. But I also have a lot of kind of darkness woven in. So it's more like the prettiness of ghosts and less like the prettiness of flowers.
I love that. And when we did our retreat back in May, you were talking about the flow space, and I really liked what you were saying there, how you enter like this flow space when you're creating and you kind of like escape a little bit, and it's hard to really talk about, what leads to a piece. And then your statement really stuck with me. You put these descriptions, and I don't know if you wanted to hit on that too, of what you were saying it's like, of like attaching words or a description to a painting.
Oh yeah, no, I heard this from a good friend of mine that's an art critic, so he was totally allowed to say this. He said writing about art, and it's an old joke, I guess, but he said writing about art is like dancing about architecture. So
Love it.
it's interesting because you're taking one form and trying to describe another form, and it's kind of a weird thing to do, really. Um, but yeah, and the flow space, as far as that goes, it is a good day in the studio when you just go in and then it's 8 hours later and there are some paintings and you can tell you did them because it looks like your work, but you don't really remember doing them. That's a good day.
Same.
And I was thinking about what you said, like in person, how it's kind of like you just black out and like you just create, which I think is just so accurate and so true. And everyone's process is just so different. Like you can't explain to someone why you created this painting. Like I mean, you could put it into words, but it's just like when you're actually doing it, it's like it's just happening because it's just like how your creativity and your brain is just functioning. And I had like a similar experience, and I thought about what you said today, and I was trying to recreate like something I had already done, like a graphic design. I just hadn't saved it out properly. So I basically had to recreate it now that I learned how to save it properly. And it was like, how did I do this? I tried so many ways to make it look exactly the same, but it was like sometimes I'm just like experimenting. Most of the time, like for me specifically, because it's more like digital art and stuff, I'm more just like experimenting with just like a bunch of different things. Like, so when I feel like, oh, okay, this looks like how I want it to look, even though it's all just like an experiment. It's I found it harder to try to recreate it or to try to be like, what did I do exactly in that moment than it was to actually just create it from scratch. And I was like, yep, this makes sense. Like how like someone can like be like, no, like you don't get it. Like I just start and I have no idea what happens, and then it just here's the result. So I totally resonate with.
Oh, yeah, no, just working with traditional materials is interesting too, because you really can, especially if you're doing watercolors, you really can just put a wrong brush stroke in and just ruin something. But I think I kind of thrive on fear, and that's kind of when I first got my big watercolor paper. I wouldn't even use it. I was using acrylics at the time, and I was too scared. I had to like have some shots before I would even touch this stuff because it was so precious or whatever. And but once I did it, that was kind of when I fell in love with watercolors, when I could figure out that I could do my work on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sorry, sorry, Bleace. I just wanted to mention to everyone that might not have seen the portal. I did pin up at the top the space with the link. So definitely come check it out. We're gonna be here for that. I have a lot to look through. Most of the time, like when I come in, it's just kind of like getting the image out there. But like I love that, like, we can come back also, like, at any moment, save these. That's why the like option is great. Like, definitely, don't forget to give each space a like so that way it comes up and it comes up for other people as well. And you can come back when you have more time and really, really get to like look through everything. And I would love, like, how you were saying, how you write the poetry and how have a paragraph like description, like eventually to be able to have that in here as well, so that way we can read and like be able to. And you did such a great job, like in person, like printing it out and everything, and like making it so easy for everyone to follow along. And I really love that. So I think that hopefully spaces like this will make it easier too for people to be able to click and see the description, see the link, and if it's a traditional painting, seeing like which ways how to buy it, if it's like digital art and you're selling it as an NFT to see that way. And there's a lot of different things that I feel like you can do with these links and with all these options. So yeah, it's really awesome. And I'm just checking out this middle room here because I think there's a couple of pictures of the actual Bowers house. So if anyone is curious to see what it looks like and the kind of the things that we were saying about it, um, come to this middle room. There's a couple of pictures in here of the actual Bowers house IRL. So yeah, this is a great example of like how spaces that exist in the real world can also exist in the metaverse. And whether you're making it as a gallery or an exact replica, I think that like there's a lot of potential because you can have the same events essentially in the metaverse where you're live streaming, and especially if you're doing it to sell a collection or to sell art, or if it's for merchandise or whatever it is, like I think that you can also implement it into the meta. So I think that's the coolest part, and I think a piece that a lot of like galleries are missing right now, especially even the ones that know about all this, like they're just not thinking about it yet. So I think like just getting it in the minds of everyone that like you can have a physical gallery and you could also, or like a physical space, and also have something like it in the metaverse so that people around the world can make a connection with it. Like what, even if it's not like no, you're not there, you can't stay there physically, but like now you kind of have an idea of like what the artwork looks like in there and like what the feel of it is like. And I just think that's really cool, and I think that there's a lot of potential with like events to be able to be thrown in both perspectives.
And I just wanted to ask if anybody knew how to walk in with the phone app. If anybody knows that, I haven't spent too much time on the phone app. I need to so that I can help more people. I usually just join from the desktop, so I know I was getting some questions about that. I thought it was like a pinch, but I have to spend more time in the phone app. But yeah, the desktop is helpful. And I see Mandy has joined. I've offered the mic if you want to come up and talk as well. But yeah, just about getting like other people that may not be able to physically come to the space, and that's what the Bowers House is doing. Is it's a retreat, so anyone can rent a room or rent the whole house out. There's 9 bedrooms, so it can fit a lot of people, and they're doing like cool events there with musicians and just artists in general. We had a nice retreat there when we went, and met a lot of artists and stuff like Paige. And it's a cool way to display your work and just get together with like-minded peeps. It's a good spot for it. And yeah, well, and like these galleries are like it's like your social media profile. So it's like it keeps evolving and it keeps changing. And so this is like a foundation of this. And yeah, would love to add more of the descriptions because those were great. Was a little limited with spatial and like the 280 characters, in their little small description, but able to put something there. I liked what our friend Sovereign's done, in terms of that of integrating text with stuff and putting it kind of on the side. You got to kind of make a PNG, but then it's also balancing of how many things you have in the space versus how many people you want it to hold. So it's kind of like a little bit of a balancing act, in that regard. Like file size too, you have to be weary of and kind of conscious of. But yeah, this is I think these pieces really pop on the wall, and really loving it. And yeah, thank you so much, Paige, for hanging out with us and talking more about it. If there's anything more you want to share, please.
No, just thank you. Thank you so much for including me and showing my things and all the wonderful, lovely things you're saying. Thank you. Yes.
And I love that like it's watercolor, but like a lot of these like look like a smoky effect. It's almost like, gathering like the fire and the water together, like especially the ones that I'm looking at right now that are, like the oranges and the reds, like and then the faces, like it's just like it's so cool. I love your paintings so much, and just being able to see them in person, like firsthand, like was just great. Just experience it, and the metal is just like so different and like so interesting, and but it's it has a different effect, but it's still so cool like to be able to see it. So I'm so glad that like Charlie kind of connected us together and that we're able to do this, because I just like I love that your pieces are in here, and like I just love seeing them like super big with my tiny avatar. I just think it's awesome to have both, like be able to have both, have like the physical paintings and be able to show them off, and then have this as well, so that people that aren't able to physically see them can still enjoy them.
No, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. It is really it's a different experience and a good one. I mean, I like novelty, so it works for me.
Thank you so much for watching these videos, taking the time. There's nothing more precious than your time, and we truly value that. And we value that you watch this all the way through. Check out more at Bleace.com, the home of Bleace Livestream HQ and the Meta Party Vibes. Check out the eco-friendly, clean NFT collection on Object.com on the Tezos blockchain. It's free to support artists. A like, a share goes a long way. We would love to support you in any way we can. Follow for follow on all socials at BLEACE NFT, Bleace NFT, and Colorful Designs. Colorful with a K, Designs. Let's go further together.